Brad Holmes has been one of the best talent evaluators over the last 3 to 4 seasons. Since the day he entered as the Detroit Lions general manager, the Lions were competitive. The Lions have been one of the best drafting teams in his tenure, with multiple All-Pros, several Pro Bowlers, and many guys that you would consider to be top 10, if not top 5, at their positions at any point in time during a given season. There's no doubt that he is one of the best general managers in football and that he is one of the best drafters in football over the last couple of years, really only rivaled by Howie Roseman of the Philadelphia Eagles. And in 2025, based on a small sample size and an early look, Brad Holmes very well may have done it again, identifying not one, not two, not three, not four, but potentially 5 players that could grow into roles and start for the Detroit Lions in a few years' time. And he very well may have had one of his best draft classes in team history. So today we're going to take a look at it. We're going to take a look at Brad Holmes' drafting history, of course, going from 2021 through 2024, looking at the stars and role players that he's found. And then we're going to go pick by pick. We're going to talk about what we've seen from every rookie so far, what's good, what's bad, and talk about whether or not this is a good draft class and looks to be so, even with a small and early sample size. So with that being said, before we get into it, let me know down in the comments below, based on what you've heard and seen from camp, based on what you've seen throughout the first preseason game, how would you grade the Detroit Lions class? What players are you excited to see, and how do you feel about the class moving forward? I'd love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments down below, but with that being said, let's kick it off with some of the stars that Brad Holmes has selected in the past. Now, he of course began in 2021, selecting Penei Sewell with his first ever selection. He was on the clock for less than 12 seconds, knowing the Oregon product was their guy. Penei Sewell has since turned into the best tackle in football, a consensus All-Pro year in and year out, and is one of the cornerstones and really even the faces of the NFL at this point. He selected Alim McNeill in the 3rd round, who hasn't gotten All-Pro or Pro Bowl accolades, but has turned into easily a top 15 to top 10 defensive tackle in football and received a massive contract extension just an offseason ago. Ahmed Hassanein Brown with the 112th overall pick turned into a top 5 wide receiver in football, multiple All-Pro selections, and is just one of the best route runners and best catchers of the ball in all of the sport. Derek Barnes has turned into a star for Detroit as well, was sorely missed a season ago, but as a 4th round pick has played fantastic as their Siam linebacker, has given them some pass rush reps, has given them some fantastic off-ball linebacker play, and really has turned into a leader in his own right. He got a big contract extension this offseason for $8 million a season and has really turned into a star in his own right for the Detroit Lions linebacking group. In 2022, the group wasn't quite as good. Not as many All-Pros, but just as many quality players. Aiden Hutchinson was the first pick at number 2 overall. Before injury this past season, he was on pace for one of the best defensive pass rushing seasons of all time and certainly well on his way to a Defensive Player of the Year award. His second pick was Jameson Williams. They traded up in the 1st round to the 12th overall pick for the speedy wide receiver from Alabama, and despite taking a few years to get going, Jameson Williams has turned into a star as well. 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, wasn't named to the Pro Bowl, but was certainly on the short list for it, and is now consensusly looked at as one of the top-end wide receiver 2s across all of football. He's probably not top 5, but certainly bordering on that top 10, and his speed is unmatched. His big playability is untouchable, and he is one of the most exciting players and the flashiest players in the NFL today. Kirby Joseph was the 3rd round selection in that class, and of course has led the NFL in interceptions and passes defended since joining the league, and last year led all of the NFL in interceptions. Had 9 interceptions, was named to his first team All-Pro as a 3rd-year player, and again received a massive extension this offseason to move forward and keep him in Detroit for the long term. Brad Holmes followed that up with a 2023 class that knocks all of them out of the park, selecting Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th overall pick, Jack Campbell with the, I believe, 18th overall pick, and then in the 2nd round selecting Sam Laporta and Brian Branch, both of whom received All-Pro votes as rookies, with Sam Laporta being named a 2nd-team All-Pro in just his first season of NFL play after leading the NFL in tight end touchdowns and tying the touchdown record for a rookie. Jack Campbell has turned into a fantastic player in the front 7 for the Detroit Lions and is leaning into his new leadership leadership role, becoming the face of that linebacking group and really becoming the communicator on that defensive side. Jahmyr Gibbs has turned into a top 3 running back in football. Brian Branch is one of the best secondary players in football. Sam Laporte is a top 5 tight end in football. And it was really, truly one of the best star-studded classes the Detroit Lions have had to offer. 2024 was a little bit of a step back, naturally, based on how well 2023 went. But still, Terrion Arnold was a fantastic player. Christian Mahogany has turned into a really strong offensive guard for them. And moving down the line, I still think there's quite a bit of talent there. Giovanni Manu has looked great throughout the preseason and has shown quite a bit throughout camp. He was really good as a rookie throughout the preseason, and I think took a big step forward going into year 2. Guys like Mekhi Wingo were rotational pieces that I thought were really strong before injury last season. Ennis Rakestraw still has a ton of talent if he can stay healthy, and some of the other players in that class still have the potential to grow into starters and grow into stars, but we haven't seen that yet. So it's unfortunately not possible to put them on this list. But even outside of the stars, Brad Holmes has found a number of quality role players even outside of the ones we just listed. Levi Onwuzurike, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Malcolm Rodriguez, James Houston, Chase Lucas, Mekhi Wingo are all players that played a role in Detroit Lions' success, are all players that have found success in Detroit, have found a role, and certainly would play for a lot of teams. Malcolm Rodriguez would be a starter on a lot of teams. Chase Lucas went and got a pretty sizable contract with the 49ers. Levi Onwuzurike was one of the bigger free agents this offseason. Ifeatu Melifonwu has gone off to start for the Miami Dolphins. And James Houston, of course, has taken a large step back from his rookie sensational season. But even for those 8 games, even for those 9 games where he was healthy and didn't have the injuries to worry about, he was a really prolific pass rusher. He was super bendy. He was super explosive, helped the Detroit Lions win a couple of games down the stretch. And if you want to say that James Houston doesn't belong on this list, I think that's okay. But he certainly played a role in their 9-8 season. He certainly played a role in changing the culture in Detroit and turning them from a 3-13 team into a 12-5 team, into a 15-2 team. And he had an impact in that role as well. So with that being said, it's pretty easy to say that Brad Holmes doesn't miss very often. It certainly happens. Broderick Martin and Hendon Hooker exist, but there aren't a lot of players that you can look at and say those guys are truly busts. Those guys are truly wasted potential, wasted opportunity, and they could have gone different directions and seen drastically different results. So going into 2025, how are things looking? Obviously, the sample size is small. We've seen training camp footage for quite a bit of these players and a couple play throughout the preseason. But what are the players looking like right now for 2025? Well, Tyleik Williams, of course, was the first selection. He's already taking first-team reps on the interior of the defensive line. He's been very disruptive throughout camp with a ton of coaches talking about how smart he is, how well he sees the game, and he's truly been super impressive to coaches. He's a player that's going to anchor the interior of the defensive line on early downs. He's going to be a pass-rushing weapon on third down paired with Alim McNeill when he returns from his ACL injury, and he's going to be a really strong defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions for a very long time. Him and DJ Reader are going to be a great run defending duo early in his career. And when DJ Reader either retires or leaves this offseason, Tyleik Williams is going to take over as the primary run defender. He's going to take over as a guy that is going to stop the run on early downs. It's going to collapse the pocket on third down. Is going to really be an all-around jack of all trades player. And even taking a look at the Inside the Den episode when they drafted him, their pro comp was Alim McNeill, a player that just got a $100 million extension and is a fan favorite among the Detroit Lions. We haven't seen him play in the preseason and likely will not see him play throughout the preseason, but based on what we've heard from camp and the fact that he's already starting on this defensive line with a role carved out as early as training camp, there are some good signs moving forward that Tyleik Williams will continue the trend of first-round picks turning out to be quite good for the Detroit Lions. Tate Ratledge is another player, the second-round pick, selected in the mid-50s. The Detroit Lions traded up a couple spots to go get him. He's already the starting guard, as well as taking starting reps at center, just in case he needs to change that position. He's big, he's athletic, he's mean, he's a fantastic run blocker. He's been a strong pass protector throughout training camp, and the fact that the Detroit Lions could go take a guard from the second round, arguably the best guard in the draft, according to certain analysts and certain content creators across multiple platforms, they found him him at the 50th overall pick. He is a plug-and-play, slot in the offensive line type of player who's going to give you immediate success in the run game, strong opportunities in pass protection, and truly, I think Tate Ratledge, of course, will have some rookie growing pains. Of course, he's going to get beat a few times, and that is inevitable, but overall, we're going to see a really strong offensive unit led by Tate Ratledge in just a couple of years, and the fact that he's already starting, because the offensive line, despite losing some players, is not weak enough to just automatically grant a start to a rookie, a starting spot to a rookie, but he is a player that I think has earned it. He's a player the Lions absolutely love and have complete faith in. And to get right with your first two picks of just strong, talented players that'll start for your team for 4, 5, 6+ years, those are good selections. And that's the bare minimum that most people expect from Brad Holmes. But where he really gets teams and where he really has earned his nickname and really has earned his status as one of the best GMs in football is in the later rounds, in day 3, in, undrafted free agency, where he's made quite a few strong picks as well. Isaac Tesla already looks like a superstar. It was a super risky pick. They traded multiple third-round picks to go up and get Isaac Tesla, but his debut was phenomenal. He is big, he's fast, he's strong, he's making defenders look silly while running routes, and he's making big plays. He had multiple receptions for 20+ yards in his NFL debut in the preseason game, and from all reports this week, he's already finding reps. He's already finding packages where he is working with Jared Goff. He's working with the first-team offense because of how well he's been throughout camp, because of how many plays he's made, because of his performance in the preseason Hall of Fame game. He's already finding reps with the first-team offense, and it won't be a lot, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tim Patrick and Khalif Raymond and Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are all going to take touches away from Isaac Tesla. But the fact that this third-round rookie, a player that a lot of GMs and a lot of fan bases saw as a late day 3 flyer pick, potentially maybe develops down the road, the fact that that guy is already taking first-team reps, the fact that he's already one of the best, I think one of the most physical wide receivers in the core is a safe thing to say, and one of certainly the biggest and most athletic. The fact that he's already getting reps, the fact that he's already working with Jared Goff is a really strong and encouraging sign and could lead to great things down the road, especially when Tim Patrick eventually leaves the team. Ahmed Hassanein, I think, has been a great player. He was arguably the best defensive performance in that Hall of Fame game, led the team with the highest PFF grade, led the team in pressure, showed a lot of good tape, multiple pass rush wins, and really was a strong player. He's a guy that a lot of Lions fans fell in love with because of the pass rusher and because of the edge rushing title, and they feel like he could potentially develop into somebody Aiden Hutchinson could pass rush with. And based on last preseason games, based on, what we saw during the Hall of Fame game, what we've seen throughout camp, reports that he's already working his way up to the second team defense in that rotation, there's a good chance that he could turn into something as well. He has shown a lot of flashes and showed quite a few signs early in his career, and he's a player that I think could be really talented as well. So that's 4 players, and I actually think a 5th could potentially be on the way with Dominic Lovett. He saw by far the most targets in the preseason game, had multiple first downs, showed his ability to run after the catch, showed his ability to be a kick returner and a punt returner and be incredibly versatile in the open field. And yeah, he had a couple of drops. He had some drop issues. The last play that was thrown to him for the interception was not a great pass. The first drop, where he admittedly ran a really strong route right where he needed to be, perfect timing, and the ball hit him in the hands, he dropped that ball, and that is certainly a concern, but he showed the ability, especially with the ball in his hands, to be dynamic, to be dangerous, and I think he is a long-term replacement for Khalif Raymond. I think he's a player that when Khalif Raymond retires, Dominic Lovett is going to take over as that kick and punt return specialist, as that wide receiver 4, as that shifty player that maybe only gets 10, 15, 20 receptions a season, maybe only gets 100, 200 yards and a touchdown, but a player that everybody knows that they can rely on, a player that everybody knows is versatile, and everybody knows the role that that guy is going to play. I think that's what Dominic Lovett is going to take over. I think that with all of the hype around Tyleik Williams taking over for DJ Reader, with Tate Ratledge taking over for Kevin Zeitler, with Isaac Tesla taking over and being the successor to Tim Patrick, with Ahmed Hassanein kind of stepping up and taking a role that hasn't been filled for the Detroit Lions. Everybody kind of overlooks Dominic Lovett, but I think he's the heir to Khalif Raymond. I truly do, and I'm excited to see exactly what he does in the next preseason game, because there's a reason he led the team in targets. he's open a lot. He's a great route runner. He's super fast. He's super fluid. He's very elusive. And if he turns out to be able to catch the ball even a little bit better than he showed in the first preseason game, he's going to turn into a really strong player down the road and certainly will be a role player for a long time on this team. Injuries. There are, of course, a couple of injuries. It was reported that Dan Jackson is no longer with the team because he is placed on IR. I believe he had a leg injury late yesterday at practice, and he's been placed on injury reserve that will end his rookie season. And Miles Frazier, to my knowledge, is on the physically unable to perform list, but I know for a fact that he is not playing with the team. He is injured and he is missing time as well, but Miles Frazier is a player that also has quite a bit of upside. Players that, a lot of fans were really excited about, and Brad Holmes came out and said, if he was available, if we didn't take Isaac Tesla in the third round, we probably would have taken Miles Frazier. So to speak to where he was being a 5th round pick, but Brad Holmes being willing to take him in the 3rd round despite the injury, again, I think speaks volumes to where he could be as a player in just a couple of years. But with that being said, I think Brad Holmes absolutely knocked this draft out of the park. I think that especially with what we've seen so far, there aren't very many players disappointing. As I said, Tyleik Williams is already taking first-team reps. He's going to be a starting defensive tackle for a long time. Tate Ratledge is already taking starting reps at guard. He is the successor and the heir to a guy like Kevin Zeitler. He's going to be here for a long time. Isaac Tesla may not play a lot as a rookie, but he's the long-term heir, the long-term successor to Tim Patrick, and is even drawing some Puka Nacua comps at this point, which is really impressive for a player in just his first preseason game. Ahmed Hassanein certainly showed enough to stick around on the roster for a long time and be competitive. And Dominic Lovett, as I said, I think has the potential to be a really strong playmaker down the road and potentially be a Khalif Raymond replacement. So you're talking 5 players in a draft class, 5 players that a year or two down the line will not only be starters, could be stars, not only be stars, but could potentially be vital pieces for this Detroit Lions team to find success. And if you ask anybody, finding 5 starters in the class, especially for a team as talented as the Detroit Lions, is a fantastic draft class. And I think Brad Holmes has put together probably not his very best. 2023, of course, will be tough to beat, and even 21 will be tough to top. But I think 2025 will go down as one of the better draft classes in the Brad Holmes era. And so far, it's looking really solid. So with that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about the draft class. Are you excited to see some of these players take the field? What players do you feel like will be stars? And what players do you think will continue to progress throughout the preseason? I'd love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments down below, like I said. But with all that being said, thank you all very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!